Yo, what's up everybody? YaBoyRoshi here, and I'm back with my boy, Diasha. You guys probably know him. You guys seen him in a couple of our skits. And we're here for a new segment that I'm going to be doing about just couch talks. Mostly going to be about gaming topics. Sometimes it might be about a little bit of random stuff here and there. But for the most part, it's going to be gaming. So, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. YouTube. Mataze Dana. I'm Diasha Thirst. We've been on YouTube for how long now? A while? A little bit?
Oh, wow, you've been on YouTube for a minute, man.
Yeah, you killing me though.
Almost a decade, right?
Yeah, but I'm not as successful. Yeah.
He took a break, but he's getting back in the swing of things. So yeah. I figured he'd be my first guest for this new segment. So today, the topic, as you guys see, it's gonna be something that I wanted to talk about on the channel for a long time. I just haven't had the time to do so, which is DLC in gaming, which is a hot topic. It's probably gonna be a hot topic for years to come. But I just want to do this video and talk with Diasha about DLC, how we feel about it, and where we think it may be going in the future. So, I guess the most appropriate question to start this off with is, what does DLC mean to you? And then, I'll let the people know what I think.
Well, for me, DLC is like a gift and a curse. So it's like, if I want, let's say you give me a complete package. Only if you give me a complete package. I mean, like I got hours out of the game. Like it's worth my $60, right? And then you put out like an extra chapter of something that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? That blows my mind. That to me is good. But when you start hitting me with like the microtransactions or the on-disc DLC, so it's like locked behind a paywall, which you could have given me before, that type of stuff is like the curse of it. You know what I mean? When you get robbed. But I mean, typically, it really just depends on what the DLC is and what game it is. Like, depends on what it is. Like, so for example, let's say, so Dragon Ball Z Kakarot just came out, right? If you did an overhaul with Dragon Ball Super, that would be dope because that's not something that was like on board or locked behind a paywall or something that you have to pay periodically for. It's just extra content. Something extra. You see what I'm saying? But if you talk about like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I don't know if you guys remember that. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, there was like 8 characters locked behind the paywall. So they were done, had move lists, had stories, had cutscenes, all that stuff. They were on the disc, but in order for you to unlock it, you had to pay for it. That's the type of scummy stuff that I don't like. Yeah,
I feel you. And you touched on some stuff that we're gonna talk about a little bit deeper. So for me, it's similar to how you feel, right? Yeah. DLC is meant to be bonus content. Yeah. It's not meant to fill in holes in the game that you sold me. It's meant to be a bonus. Like, like if you want to add more hours into this game that you already love, here's something extra for you that you may not have even known was coming. Right? So, you kind of already started on this. So the next thing is gonna be like good and bad examples of DLC. And I'll start it off, right? So good example of DLC is, let's throw our way back.
Okay.
So the first DLC I ever purchased was Gears of War. Gears of War was what brought me into the new generation of game, right?
We can talk Gears all day.
Back then, the DLC was like map packs. Yeah. You get some added maps. But you still had the base game, you still had some maps. You want some extra maps? Here you go. Go ahead and dump some more hours into this game. Another good example, Bloodborne. When they had that added DLC, Bloodborne was already a crazy full experience.
Was ridiculous.
They're like, hey, you want to get your ass cheeks clapped a little bit more?
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you dive into this DLC and dump some more hours into the game? Then we can go into bad examples of DLC.
Star Wars Battlefront.
I haven't played that one. But for me, a big one for me, 2 big ones for me are actually very recent. Very recent. So, Final Fantasy 15. I have very hard feelings about that game. Because the game that was sold to me at $60 was not a complete game. Correct. There were several holes in the story. And then after I was done beating the game, 3 months later, they're like, oh, here's the King edition of the game. And this includes all the DLC chapters. And there was literal chapters. There's a portion of the game where one character comes back with a massive scar across his chest. There's like you guys split up. He comes back with the scar. They're like, oh, what happened? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you guys later. Like, no, bitch, tell me now. What happened?
That really happened?
Yes.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
DLC. They sold that as a chapter. So the other main characters went off and did things, and they sold those as chapters. So the majority of the game was hollow, and then they sold you these extra chapters. And then you got Kingdom Hearts 3, which was a terrible game. Absolutely god-awful game. And then now they just came up with this Remind DLC to fill in plot holes. But, those are just two for me.
Personally, I didn't get the Remind DLC, and I'm probably not going to get it. What is it, $40?
I think so.
I think it's $40. So my thing with Kingdom Hearts 3 is no matter what you tell me after that $60, I'm not going to accept it. Because when I played Kingdom Hearts 2, I was 14, 15. And then Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and I'm 30. You know what I'm saying? So you made me wait 15 years for this, and then you want me to spend more money? Nah. What I would expect is a full package. So Remind should have already been in there. I should have had secret Final Fantasy bosses, secret rooms, like all of that. Like the Kingdom Hearts experience that I've enjoyed when I was 15. Like I remember getting my ass whooped by like Sephiroth and Cloud and like the desert monster or whatever that was. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like secret bosses. There was only one, I think, in this game. I think it was only one.
I believe so.
And then there was no Final Fantasy characters. You know what I'm saying? And then now you want to hit me with this Remind shit, which I'm not gonna, don't quote me on this, but I saw an article where they compared some of the cutscenes from Remind to Final Fantasy versus 13. So remember when 15 was versus 13?
Yeah, I remember that.
Some of the cutscenes made it to Remind, so it was like a copy and paste sort of situation. And I'm like, you couldn't have like screwed me over any worse with that game. You know what I'm saying? You made me wait 15 years. You left out most of the characters that we identify with, and then no secret bosses, like, and then you sold me $40 DLC. Nah. Nah.
Yo, and what's crazy is that brings us to the current state of DLC. So I feel like what DLC has become is a scapegoat for developers to sell you an incomplete game.
That's a fact.
And then give you the remaining chunks that they were still working on as DLC. So essentially you're funding the game as they're still developing it.
Right.
Now, let me just say this, right? Of course, we can't put this on individual developers. They're just doing their job, right? They go to work, they do what, the big wigs tell them. But the big wigs, or who we can place the blame on, they're rushing to get these games out. These games are incomplete. You're being sold betas. And then at the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, remember that part of the game that didn't really make sense? Well, if you give us $30, here's an explanation for that and what happened.
Which is crazy.
And I don't think that's fair. After I spent my $60, I expect a full game. And what a lot of people don't know these days, these gamers, I really don't like to play the age card. Yeah. But we gotta play the age card.
It's hard not to.
A lot of gamers now were extremely young or just being born when DLC first became a thing. Now all those kids are teenagers. Now they're playing games. They don't mind everything that's going on with the DLC. They think that that's okay. Yeah. They never had the experience of buying a game and getting the game.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because at the same time, we didn't have the availability to deliver DLC. You see what I'm saying? But
that's true.
It turned into something where developers can just get more money. And a lot of people blame it on like the mobile game scene, right? Because you can release a free game and just charge people for all the extra stuff. You see what I'm saying? And then that just brings you way more money. So then the big wigs are like, why are we spending, like for example, Kojima, right? He wants a big budget game, $60 million a game. That's not a real number, but $60 million a game, right? But then that's it. There's no more extra out of it. Yeah. Everybody bought the game. That's it, right? So how do we still deliver that $60 million game and then get more money out of that game? Because you have to match like time worked and like all of that, you know what I'm saying? So it turned into something that it shouldn't have been. But back in the day, like if you want to talk about like Final Fantasy 7, you remember Final Fantasy 7 was what, 4 discs?
4 discs, yeah.
It was like 4 discs. You played it, you know what I'm saying? You enjoyed it. You went back, you played it again, and then that was it. But like now it's like, they're rushing so hard to get these games out that you gotta buy it in parts. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now I don't even know what the full story is with this game, because I don't know if it's like, you pay $60 and then you just keep getting updates to the game, or do you pay $60 and then $60 and then $60? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it went from 2 parts, like you get the first half and then the second half, to multiple parts. So now they're saying it's probably gonna be 4 parts where it's 30 hours a piece. Granted, 30 hours a segment is dope, but not if it's coming in pieces and you already delayed the first quarter of the game.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you get these like bad business practices when it's like, I could go to EB Games, get Final Fantasy VII for $40, $60, and it's the whole package. But now it's like, nah, here's 60, give me your $60 and we'll give you the service. I don't want the service, I want the game.
Well, it's funny because games have now become a service.
Right.
And the current form of DLC is now microtransactions.
Ugh.
So let me give you an example. Gears of War 5 is probably the worst Gears in the entire series. And the entire game
probably is a stretch. It
is based around microtransactions, right? Now here's where, it's not fair to the gamers. I paid $60 for this game. Now everything is a microtransactions. And what they do is they give you the illusion that, no, it's not. You don't have to pay for it. It's play to win. However, they make the hurdle so high for play to win that it literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff in Gears 5, it's like, you have to put in like 40, 50 hours just to get like a skin.
For the skin, yeah.
How is that even
or
fair?
the character. Yeah, so like you have to get a totem, and then when you get the totem, you have to equip the totem, but you can only equip 1 totem at a time.
Yeah.
So if there's 4 characters, there's 4 totems, right? So if you're like, damn, I want all four characters, when you equip the 1 totem, it's multiple things you have to do.
Yeah, and you're locked into that totem, so
Yeah.
you can only work to. So what essentially what it is they're engaged in mental warfare with the gamers.
Yep.
They're like, you're not gonna do all this bullshit. You're gonna pay up and give us, the money. And it's crazy because with Gears, I guess it's a little bit different because a lot of people got Gears 5 on Game Pass. And
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, it's still not fair for those who shelled out the $60 for them to not get a complete experience.
My thing with Gears, so just to give you a little background, I was a competitive Gears player back in the Gears 1, Gears 2 days, right? Back when like everything was on the disc, right? The way they, like you say, like mental warfare, the way they get you to feel good about it is, but don't worry about the maps. Like, we're gonna give you maps, we're gonna give you all of that. Like, that's all free and it's coming.
That's the new thing.
Right? That's the shit. So then you go, well, hell yeah, coalition, hell yeah, right? But then you look at the store and it's like, whoa, you had to pay for a curb stomp. The curb stomp, which you had in the first game, the second game.
The iconic execution.
Curb stomp, you had to pay for that.
It's crazy.
That to me is like, nah. And then the problem is like, remember I said I was a professional, Gears player. That was before kids, that was before jobs, that was before responsibilities, right? Now you got all of that. So as a 30-year-old man, I don't have time to grind for these characters. I don't have time to grind for all these skins and stuff that I don't really want. But I got money, so I'm gonna put my card in it and I'm gonna get all this stuff. But wait, it's on Game Pass. You just paying $15 a month. It's all like, you know what I'm saying? It's too much for me.
Yeah.
And like I don't think it's fair because like, if you look at, what was it, Gears 3? Gears 3 had how many characters?
A lot.
Gears 3 had characters
and
skins.
Experience.
It was OD. Gears 3 was fire. And then you had Gears 4, which introduced the packs. Remember the card packs where you had like RNG? Yeah. So it was like, damn, you can get this pack, which might have this character. But then you have to spend this amount of money, like.
Yeah, but now we're getting into loot boxes.
Yeah,
and
like
RNG and how it's low-key gambling. And, and all that stuff. And what's crazy about all this is how the players react. And now we have, we have this player base that's like, oh, well, you're just broke. You just can't afford it. And then we have the player base, and then there's other people that are kind of like, well, just be glad that they're making content for the game. And it's kind of like that new mentality. And again, it goes back to that mental warfare. And this is how gamers have been trained to think. They're not. When you think of From Software gives you a full experience. Sekiro was $60.
Oh my God.
Here's the thing. If your game is good, you can put out DLC and nobody will have a fucking problem with it.
Right.
Sekiro, I was like online like, yo, where's the DLC? This game was such a masterpiece.
bro? Yeah.
But instead of focusing on quality, the developers are focusing, how can we nickel and dime the players? How can we get them to spend more money on stupid shit like skins and dance moves
to stay in business
and all that stuff? And then the players have followed suit with their mentality. And I don't think that it's fair to apply that mentality to every gamer everywhere, because there are gamers that do value their money and feel like their money is not going as far as it should in the current state of things.
That's true. Because I feel that now, because like, even though I don't like the DLC practice, right, for Gears 5, I'm a supporter because I want a Gears 6, right? So I will buy the general ROM and all that stuff, right? But if you think about it, the game is, it's known for like the Locust, right? The Locust wasn't even in the game, right? You didn't, well, the Locust was in the campaign, but they weren't in the multiplayer. Yeah. And now they're adding the Locust and all this other stuff. And it's like, it's too late at this point. Nobody wants to play it. You know what I mean? Like I tried. You know what I mean? I tried to play the multiplayer and all of that, and I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So you'll notice that it's starting to drop down in the, when you look at what games are being played, it's like all the way at the bottom. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But there are games that, like, do you remember Asura's Wrath?
Yeah.
Asura's Wrath's DLC was ridiculous. Like, cause they had the Street Fighter where you could fight against Evil Ryu, and you could fight as you could fight against Akuma and Oni. Yeah. That shit was fire. And it was like, I don't know, 2 hours. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like super expensive. But like you said earlier, like if it's worth it, then I'll buy it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you bring up From Software, and I love From Software. Like their games are ridiculous, but they very seldom put out anything extra. Yeah. When you get the one game, that's all you need. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like Sekiro, all you needed was Sekiro. You don't need anything else, but like we clamor for more because the game is so good. Yeah. But then the people that want extra money, so like, Ubisoft or EA, you know what I'm saying? All those games that want, or all those developers or publishers that want more money, the games lack substance anyway. So I'm not gonna give you no money, let alone even buy it. Like I don't even want to talk about sport games.
So let me ask you this, like, do you think that we're just old heads when it comes to gaming, and we're not being open-minded enough to accept the new way things are going? Because if you think about it, in a few years, for the most part, a lot of these games are going to be games as a service. We've already reached the point where multiplayer games are coming out with no campaign, just the multiplayer. And we already see games as a service. Yeah. Apex Legends, free to play, buy the battle pass. Yeah. You're gonna buy the battle pass just every season. Yeah. You're gonna buy all the new stuff. You're gonna be perpetually spending money on this game. So is it just that we're stuck in our ways and not open enough to accepting these new things, or is it just really and truly deep down we feel like, for the most part, a lot of this shit is ass?
I don't think we're stuck. A lot of it is bullshit. Like, I'll give you an example, and we'll just compare two games. We'll compare Tekken 7 with Street Fighter 5. Okay. Right? Tekken 7 and Mortal Kombat 11 are arguably the best fighting games out right now. As far as like content goes, not as far as like how the game plays or how you fight and all that stuff. It's more so like the complete package. So when Street Fighter 5 came out, before it came out, there were betas, right? So you had an alpha, you had a beta, you had a few beta tests, right? When you downloaded the beta, the way you saw it is the way the game launched. It didn't launch with anything else. So you had your character roster, you had your few stages, there was no story mode, there was no like none of that. It was bare bones, and you paid $60 for that because they wanted it to be, gaming as a service. Yeah. Now, let's go to Tekken 7, right? Tekken 7, I personally cannot play the game, but I bought it because I wanted to support, right? It had all the characters, it had a full story mode, arcade mode, bonus levels, like all of this shit for $60. Yeah. Now, both games have season passes, both games have downloadable characters and stuff like that, which is fine, because if you release a character that I want to play, I'll pay for it. For example, in Street Fighter 5, I wanted to play Kage because I love Evil Ryu, so I paid the money to get him, right? But it's different when like Tekken 7 is just like, here's everybody. Here's everybody, here's everything, boom. And then we could talk about Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 had everything. Like the story mode in that game was ridiculous. Yeah. Like deep thought out story. You know what I'm saying? And then you had all these characters. And then if you want, you can buy the season pass, right? If you wanted to. You didn't need it, but if you wanted to, you can get it. But it was a full game. So I don't think necessarily it's we're old heads. It's just certain companies don't have a handle on it yet. So they just make poor decisions where like adults are like, why would I do that? Like, why would I buy that? What am I gonna do with this? You see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
And I agree. So that poses the question out to all of you. What do you guys think about this whole DLC situation? Do you think we're tripping? Do you think this is bullshit? Do you think we have some valid points here in regards to how DLC is handled by a lot of these game developers? Let's go ahead and talk about it. We'd love to hear from all of you. But as always, guys, like and subscribe or follow on all socials at YaBoyRoshi, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe to our man Dayasha. All of his links are also going to be down below. Again, this is going to be a regular segment on the channel. So looking forward to having a lot more interesting discussions. But definitely want to hear from you guys. So let's go ahead and sound off in the comments. But that's all we got for you guys today. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you guys next time.